Stop squinting, Olivia. You're going to give yourself wrinkles. My mother snapped, not looking up from her magazine as I struggled to read the menu in the dimly lit restaurant. I was 25, and for as long as I could remember, reading anything further than arm's length had been a battle. Mom, I really think I need to see an eye doctor, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. The headaches are getting worse, and I can barely drive at night anymore. She sighed dramatically, putting down her magazine. Not this again. You've been complaining about your eyes since elementary school. If there was something wrong, don't you think we would have noticed? My father chimed in from behind his newspaper. Your mother's right. Besides, no one in our family has ever needed glasses. It's probably all those hours you spend staring at your computer screen. I wanted to point out that both of them were holding their reading materials at arm's length, but I'd learned long ago that observations like that would only lead to more dismissals or angry outbursts. The headaches had started when I was around 7. I remember sitting in class, struggling to copy what the teacher wrote on the blackboard. When I told my parents, they accused me of trying to sit at the back of the class to cause trouble. When I moved to the front row on my own, they said I was trying to be the teacher's pet. By high school, I had developed my own coping mechanisms. I recorded lectures so I wouldn't miss anything on the board, borrowed notes from friends, and used my phone to zoom in on distant text. My grades were good enough that my parents could maintain their narrative that nothing was wrong with me. But now, as an adult with my own job in graphic design, the problem had become impossible to ignore. The constant headaches, the eye strain, the difficulty driving, it was affecting every aspect of my life. I'm making an appointment, I announced, putting down the menu I couldn't read. I'm on my own insurance now, and I'm tired of pretending everything's fine. My mother's face darkened. Olivia Marie Thompson, you're being ridiculous. If you go to an eye doctor, they'll just try to sell you expensive glasses you don't need. They're all scammers. There was something in her tone, a slight tremor that I'd never noticed before. I looked at my father, who had suddenly become very interested in his water glass. Why are you both so against me seeing an eye doctor? I asked slowly. What aren't you telling me? Nothing. My mother's response came too quickly, too sharply. We just don't want you wasting your money on unnecessary medical bills. You know how doctors are, always finding problems that don't exist. I made the appointment anyway. Dr. Sarah Miller's office was modern and welcoming, nothing like the scary medical experience my parents had always described. During the initial examination, she asked about my family history. My parents say no one in our family has ever needed glasses, I told her. She looked up from her notes, frowning slightly. Are you sure about that? No vision problems at all. That's what they've always told me, I replied, but even as I said it, a memory surfaced, finding old photos in our attic when I was 12, pictures of my parents in college. In several of them, my father was wearing glasses. When I asked about it, he'd gotten angry and said they were fake glasses for a costume party. Dr. Miller's examination was thorough, involving tests I'd never heard of. As she worked, her frown deepened. Finally, she sat back and looked at me seriously. Olivia, I'm going to need to dilate your eyes for a more detailed examination. But before we do that, I have to ask, have you ever been diagnosed with or tested for keratoconus? Kerato what? I asked. It's a progressive eye condition where the cornea becomes thin and bulges outward into a cone shape, she explained. It's often genetic, and the symptoms usually start in childhood or adolescence. My heart started pounding. What kind of symptoms? Blurred vision, sensitivity to light, difficulty seeing things at a distance, problems driving at night, essentially everything you've described experiencing since childhood. The room seemed to spin. Is it treatable? Yes, especially if caught early, but left untreated. She paused, choosing her words carefully. It can lead to significant vision impairment. I'd like to call your parents in for a consultation. Given the genetic component, they should be tested as well. As Dr. Miller spoke, pieces started falling into place. My father's old photos with glasses, my parents' adamant refusal to take me to eye doctors, their own habit of holding reading materials at arm's length. But why would they hide something like this? I'll call them, I said, my voice shaking. But Dr. Miller, something tells me they already know about this condition. She nodded grimly. That's what I'm afraid of. Let's run these tests first, and then we'll have a very serious conversation about what your parents might have been hiding from you all these years. As I watched her prepare the eye drops for dilation, I couldn't shake the feeling that my entire childhood was about to be rewritten. What else had they hidden from me in their determination to pretend everything was fine? The call to my parents went exactly as I expected. My mother immediately launched into a tirade about money-hungry doctors, while my father remained suspiciously quiet in the background. "We're coming to this appointment," my mother finally declared, surprising me. "Someone needs to protect you from these scam artists." Dr. Miller's office was eerily quiet when we arrived 3 days later. My parents sat stiffly in their chairs while the doctor pulled up my test results on her screen. The images showed my corneas in vivid detail, their distorted shape clearly visible even to my untrained eyes. "Mr. and Mrs. Thompson," Dr. Miller began, her voice professional but with an edge I hadn't heard before, "your daughter has advanced keratoconus in both eyes. The condition is quite severe, suggesting it's been progressing unchecked for many years." My mother started to interrupt, but Dr. Miller held up her hand. "Before you respond, I should inform you that I took the liberty of requesting Olivia's childhood medical records." The color drained from my father's face. "Interestingly," she continued, "I found records from when Olivia was 8 years old. She was diagnosed with early-stage keratoconus by Dr. James Parker. He prescribed corrective lenses and recommended regular monitoring. There were no follow-up visits." The room fell silent. I felt like I couldn't breathe. "You knew?" I whispered, looking at my parents. "You knew all this time?" My father wouldn't meet my eyes. My mother's hands were shaking as she clutched her designer purse. "We didn't want you to be different," my mother finally burst out. "Do you know what glasses do to a child's self-esteem? We were protecting you." "Protecting me?" My voice rose. "I've been struggling to see for 20 years. I thought I was crazy, imagining things, being dramatic. You let me believe that." "Your father and I both had it as children," my mother continued as if I hadn't spoken. "The glasses, the treatments, the other kids making fun of us. We swore we wouldn't let that happen to you." Dr. Miller interjected, her voice sharp. "Instead, you let your daughter's condition deteriorate to the point where she may need corneal transplants. That was your solution." "Transplants?" I felt dizzy. "It's that bad?" "Without intervention, yes. The damage from years of neglect is significant. We need to start aggressive treatment immediately." My father finally spoke, his voice small. "We thought she was doing fine. Her grades were good. She has a career." I taught myself to cope. I exploded. I recorded lectures because I couldn't see the board. I stayed home from parties because I couldn't drive at night. I get migraines almost every day from eye strain. How is that doing fine? My mother reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "Sweetheart, we did what we thought was best. Your father and I managed without treatment." "Did you?" I asked, suddenly remembering something. "Is that why you both stopped driving at night 5 years ago? Why you need the brightest lights in every room? Did you really manage, or are you both suffering too?" Their silence was answer enough. Dr. Miller cleared her throat. "Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, I'm legally obligated to report this as medical neglect. Given that Olivia is now an adult, it may not result in legal consequences, but it will be documented." "Report us?" My mother's voice rose to a shriek. "We're her parents. We were protecting her." "You were protecting yourselves," I said quietly, the truth finally hitting me. "You didn't want to face your own condition, so you pretended mine didn't exist either. Every time I complained about my vision, it forced you to think about your own problems, so you shut me down." My father's shoulders slumped. "We thought we were doing the right thing," he whispered. Dr. Miller turned to me, her expression softening. "Olivia, I'd like to schedule you for corneal cross-linking next week. It's a procedure that can help prevent further deterioration. After that, we'll fit you for specialized contact lenses. With proper treatment, we can significantly improve your quality of life." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. 20 years of struggling, of self-doubt, of thinking I was imagining things, all because my parents couldn't face their own fears. "I'll need both of you to be tested as well," Dr. Miller addressed my parents. "Given the genetic nature of keratoconus and your apparent symptoms, it's crucial we assess your condition too." My mother started to protest, but my father placed a hand on her arm. "We'll do it," he said quietly. "We've done enough damage." As we left the office, I felt both lighter and heavier, lighter knowing I wasn't crazy, that there was a name for what I'd been experiencing and treatments available. heavier with the weight of my parents' betrayal and the knowledge of how much time we'd lost. "Olivia," my mother called as I headed to my car. "Please, we need to talk about this." I turned to face them, seeing them clearly for the first time, not as the infallible parents of my childhood, but as flawed, frightened people who'd let their own fears harm their child. "Yes," I agreed, "we do need to talk. But not today. I need time to process this first." The next 3 months transformed my life in ways I never imagined. After the corneal cross-linking procedure and being fitted for specialized contact lenses, I experienced true clarity of vision for the first time. Colors were brighter, edges sharper, and the constant headaches finally subsided. My parents, true to their word, underwent testing. Both had advanced keratoconus, worse than mine. Dr. Miller started them on treatment, though she warned that decades of neglect had left permanent damage. The irony wasn't lost on any of us. One evening, while recovering from my procedure, I found a box in my apartment mailbox. Inside was a leather-bound journal with a note from my father. "Dear Olivia, I've been writing this since your diagnosis, trying to explain. It's not an excuse, but maybe it will help you understand. Love, Dad." The journal detailed his own childhood struggles with keratoconus. His parents had gotten him treatment, but the experience traumatized him. Kids had bullied him mercilessly about his thick glasses and frequent doctor visits. He met my mother in a support group for teens with eye problems. They'd bonded over their shared experiences and eventually fell in love. When they had me, they convinced themselves they could protect me from their past trauma by pretending the condition didn't exist. What started as denial evolved into a complex web of lies that trapped us all. Reading his words, I felt my anger slowly transforming into something more complicated. Sadness for the scared teenagers they'd been, frustration at the adults they'd become, and hope for the healing we might achieve. I called my parents and invited them over for dinner. When they arrived, both wearing their new prescribed contact lenses, I noticed how differently they moved, more confident, less hesitant. My mother's eyes were red-rimmed, suggesting she'd been crying. "I've been doing some thinking," I said as we sat down, "and I've made a decision." They waited, tension visible in their shoulders. "I'm starting a support group," I continued, "for people with keratoconus and their families. Dr. Miller is helping me set it up. I'd like you both to be part of it." My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father's eyes welled with tears. "We don't deserve your forgiveness," my mother whispered. "This isn't about forgiveness, not yet," I replied honestly. "It's about breaking the cycle. Your parents may have gotten you treatment, but they didn't help you deal with the emotional impact. You tried to protect me by hiding the truth, but that only caused more damage. We need to do better." My father reached for the tissue box. "The support group, what exactly will we do?" "Share our stories. Help newly diagnosed patients understand their options. Support parents struggling with their children's diagnosis. Maybe if you'd had something like this 20 years ago, things would have been different." Over dinner, we talked more openly than we had in years. My mother admitted she still had nightmares about her childhood eye appointments. My father confessed he'd kept all his old glasses hidden in a box in their attic. I shared how their denial had affected my self-trust and relationships. I used to avoid dating, I admitted. I was afraid of having to explain why I couldn't drive at night, why I always sat so close to screens. I thought no one would understand. "We did that to you," my mother said softly. "We made you feel alone." "You did," I agreed. "But now we have a chance to help others feel less alone." 6 months later, our support group held its first meeting. The community room at Dr. Miller's office was packed. My parents shared their story first, not just about their own diagnosis, but about the mistakes they'd made with me. Their honesty opened the floodgates, and soon others were sharing similar experiences of denial, fear, and eventual acceptance. After the meeting, a teenage girl approached me with her parents. "I was diagnosed last month," she said. "I'm scared about wearing the special contacts to school. Kids already think I'm weird." I glanced at my parents, who stepped forward. My mother took the girl's hand, while my father addressed her parents, sharing resources and experiences. Watching them, I saw how our pain could be transformed into something helpful, something healing. That night, as I drove home, at night, with clear vision, for the first time in my life, I thought about how darkness can sometimes lead to light. My parents' misguided choices had caused years of struggle, but they'd also led us here, to a place where we could help others avoid the same path. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Thank you for showing us a better way to see things." I smiled at the unintentional pun. Our vision, both literally and metaphorically, had finally cleared. We couldn't change the past, but we could build a clearer future, not just for ourselves, but for others walking the same path. Sometimes the darkest secrets, when brought to light, can become the brightest beacons of hope for others. Our family story wasn't over, it was just beginning to be seen clearly for the first time.